For the first time in decades, the position of the world's #1 dream destination, which the US has held for many years, has been replaced, and not by one, but 8 countries at the same time. Florida, California, or Chicago, names that once welcomed millions of international visitors, now see the number of tourists turning to beaches, cities, and deserts half a world away. In just 12 months, the US lost more than 5% of its international visitors, or $64 billion, which is enough to feed the budget of an entire small state. So what's going on? How can countries that were once considered dual sides occupy America's spotlight on the world travel map? And what are the 8 names that are causing America to lose its customers the fastest? The video is analytical and knowledge sharing, not intended to be a negative assessment or promote prejudice against any individual or organization. Be prepared, because this list will surprise and regret you and may change your next travel choice. In just 5 years, the number of American visitors to Vietnam increased by more than 300%. A country halfway around the world is causing American tourists to leave behind both Florida and California. Does it sound strange? Did you know, according to Google Travel Insights, in 2024, Vietnam will be in the top 5 most searched destinations in the world, surpassing old names like Los Angeles or Miami. It may sound far away, but this story is directly related to America's wallet, travel habits, and competitive position on the global travel map. A number that will make you raise eyebrows. The number of American visitors to Vietnam has increased by more than 300% in just 5 years. Interestingly, many of them were former guests of Florida, California. They used to spend thousands of dollars just to spend a few days on their hometown beach, but now they choose to go to Da Nang, Hoi An, or Ha Long Bay and still have money left over to spend comfortably. A small comparison for you to better visualize. 2 nights of a 3-star hotel in Manhattan, about $800 US. For the same amount, you can stay up to 10 nights in a 4-star coastal hotel in Vietnam, including breakfast buffet and basic spa. And that's just accommodation. What about eating? A fresh seafood meal for 4 people in Da Nang, accompanied by lobster and wine, costs less than $60 US. What about in California? Most likely you only have enough to buy 2 servings of steak without counting tips. But perhaps what makes Americans turn to Vietnam isn't just the cheap price. It's about feeling welcomed like a real guest. It's a place where you're served with a smile, not a hurried look. It's a place where you can sit for 3 hours over a cup of coffee without anyone reminding you to order more food. Many older American tourists shared that they found in Vietnam a version of America's own memories when neighbors still greeted each other in the morning, when markets were still vibrant and not cold shopping centers. Of course, in the past, Vietnam was considered a luxury journey in terms of flying nearly a day before arriving. But now, direct flights, competitive fares, and even smart package tours are shortening distances and taking anxiety out of the journey. Some 10-day premium tours in Vietnam are even cheaper than a weekend getaway in the US. So the question is, if a country halfway around the world can provide a better experience at a lower cost, then do Americans have any reason to choose to stay in the country when they want to rest, explore, enjoy? If you have ever been to Vietnam, please tell us your experience in the comments section. What do you think America can learn from Vietnam, the rising star of Asian tourism? Don't look away, because the next destination on this journey is a European country that is making many Americans wonder, is California losing its own blue sea crown? If you think Sea Paradise is home to Malibu waves, San Diego sunshine, and a $15 cocktail on the white sand, you probably haven't set foot in Dubrovnik. Recently, there has been a silent shift taking place in the American tourist world that many people didn't realize until their friends invited each other to go. Croatia, a name that once faded from the resort map, is becoming an increasingly popular alternative to California. After COVID, the number of American visitors to Croatia increased by more than 250%. Not by chance, but because more and more people are proactively crossing out Los Angeles or San Diego from their schedules to fly directly to the Adriatic Sea, where the ancient city of Dubrovnik is so beautiful that people forget there was once Malibu. In Croatia, you have a different experience with a price that makes you look back at the bill back home. In San Diego, rent a kayak for one day, $120. In Croatia, $40, but the view is Blue Bay, steep limestone mountains, and medieval city walls running beside the sea. You don't just pay less, you buy more. Beauty, European atmosphere, and silence in your mind. And it's not just the price. Croatia offers experience scenarios. California seems to be losing. Sunbathing in the morning on a cobblestone beach. In the afternoon, stroll through the paved old town that has existed since the 13th century. Sit on the porch at night, eat fresh seafood, drink local wine, and listen to the waiter tell you a little about the history of the sitting building. Meanwhile, in California, sometimes you're still stuck in the middle of the parking lot or waiting in line for an empty table for 40 minutes. The most surprising thing is not in the scenery, but in the eyes of people. Many American tourists share that they are welcomed in Croatia more warmly than when traveling domestically. In some parts of America, they feel like a booking code. In Croatia, they are guests. It sounds a bit heartbreaking, but sometimes you have to go halfway around the world to find yourself smiling like a distinguished guest. And the burning question arises: if there was a place that was both beautiful, cheap, and kind, would California still retain the throne of a sea paradise in the hearts of international tourists and Americans themselves? Have you ever been to Croatia, or ever intended to? Please share your comments under comments. In your opinion, what should America change if it does not want to be surpassed on its own field? And don't rush to leave, because the next destination is not across the ocean, but right next to the US border, attracting customers at a rate that makes many states worried. If you think Mexico is only for customers who are afraid to spend money, so you haven't seen Americans skip the Palm Springs trip to San Miguel de Allende and call it where I want to live the rest of my life. Mexico was once labeled as a cheap alternative to domestic travel. Like if you don't have enough money to go to Hawaii, then go to Cancun. But this is changing fundamentally and quietly. More and more American tourists, especially over 50 years old, with sophisticated living tastes and deep experiences, choose Mexico, not because it is cheap, but because they see here what many American cities are gradually losing. No longer a cold escape vacation, Mexico is now a place to find your emotions. In Oaxaca, you can take a chocolate making class, sit in a 300-year-old adobe kitchen, listen to the landlady tell family stories from the Revolution. In San Miguel, American retirees gather to read poetry, paint, hold exhibitions, and say, "I didn't come here to live cheap. I came to live for real." Meanwhile, in America, chances are you're staying at an apartment worth nearly $3,000 a month with your neighbors not saying hello, and your phone bill is still increasing, even if you don't call anyone. Notably, prices in Mexico are not only cheap but pleasant and soulful. A fine dining 3-course meal in Mexico City, $25 US. An Airbnb with mountain view, large balcony near the central square, under $80 US per night. An hour of professional massage with a slight Maya flute in the background, $15. Not because you pay less, but because you get more in return. And here's what few people say. Many American tourists say they feel less stressed in Mexico than in their home country. No time control. I don't feel like I'm in a hurry to live. Only people smile, street music, and life is flowing with lighter breaths. Sounds funny? But those are the truth. So the question is, if you could live or travel in a safe, beautiful, profound, pleasant place and be welcomed as a relative, would you still choose to go to an expensive place, rushed and sometimes insensitive just because it's in the water. If you've ever been to Mexico or are considering it, recount the moment you found yourself belonging there. In your opinion, is Mexico really becoming the new American dream, or is this just a temporary wave? And stay, because the next destination is not a country, but a trend that is quietly causing the US tourism industry to transform so as not to be left behind. No need to look for miniature Paris or revenue-collecting Venice. Because in Morocco, you don't find any copies, you just find yourself, living slowly, living realistically, and living deeper every day. When talking about Morocco, people often think of souk, flea market, camels, mint tea. But the truth is, Morocco is becoming a favorite destination for many American tourists, especially those who have traveled most of Europe, once reclined on a Mediterranean sea chair and wanted an experience that made me think again about the world. According to data from Forward Keys, in 2024, the number of American tourists to Morocco increased by more than 260% compared to before the pandemic. But the reason lies not in the cost of, but in the feeling of entering another world where time shrinks like a fairy tale, and people are more real than any travel sign. Why does Morocco attract so many customers? Netflix shows and YouTube travel vlogs continuously bring images of the Marrakesh night market, the Sahara Desert, and brilliant Islamic architecture to the screen. Meanwhile, the cost is also pretty breathable. A 4-day tour to explore the Sahara, ride a camel, and sleep in a tent in the middle of a sand dune only offers tickets to the Grand Canyon and a 3-night hotel in Arizona. And not only can visitors admire the scenery, but they can also immerse themselves in the thousands of years old culture, eat, wear traditional costumes, and listen to stories right next to the fire. It's worth mentioning that a lot of Americans who have been to Morocco say that this place reminds them of a lost America where you can sit for hours talking to strangers without rushing to look at the clock. An America before the era of chain stores, automation, and busyness as a religion. They don't just come to travel, they come to take a break from their own lives. A retired couple from Texas said, "We thought we were going to Morocco to find something new. But then I realized I was rediscovering the old thing, sincerity, silence, and the feeling of being seen." When a country in the bottom corner of the world map can turn prejudice into advantage and America loses newness, who is really rewriting the rules of the tourism industry? If you find in Morocco a deeper version of the world, with more real people, more affordable prices, and a more lifetime experience, would you still choose Las Vegas or Palm Springs just because it's close, even though there's nothing left to be surprised about? If you have ever been to Morocco or are saving it in bucket list, please share. What's in that place that makes you want to come back? What do you think Americans need to relearn from the Riyads hidden deep behind those silvery blue doors? And stay tuned, as the next destination is an Asian giant, pleasing American travelers with respect and sophistication that at home they sometimes no longer feel. There are trips where you not only go on vacation, but also go to see yourself again. For many American tourists, especially older tourists, Japan is becoming such a destination. And what's remarkable is, this appeal is not in scale or glamour, but in the way they treat people. In the 2024 cherry blossom season, air tickets from the US to Tokyo were sold out 6 months in advance. Not just premium tours, even self-sufficient trips are full. Meanwhile, in some major US cities, the hotel industry reports availability during peak season. Perhaps the reason lies in how respectful and subtle they are in every little detail. From images of station staff bowing when the train arrives just 30 seconds late, to the sushi chef's skillful hands, cherishing every piece of fish like a work of art. That care makes visitors feel appreciated. Along with that is a rare sense of security. Many Americans say they forgot their wallet in Tokyo and received it back intact a few hours later. And of course, it's hard to miss the intense cultural experience. Strolling through Kyoto's old town in the morning with its paved alleys, wandering in the afternoon in Osaka's bustling night markets, and when night falls, soaked in the onsen at the foot of the snowy mountain, letting the spreading warmth dispel all fatigue. For those who have traveled to many parts of the world, Japan brings the feeling of being taken care of by as an honored guest. This, sadly, is sometimes no longer felt in their home country of where services are increasingly industrial and people are in a hurry. Did you know some 7-day tours in Japan, including hotels, bullet trains, sightseeing tickets, cost less than a week of vacation in New York or San Francisco? And that's not to mention, in Japan, on time is part of the culture, so you won't have to stress about slow flights or messy schedules. So the question is America losing its competitive advantage not only in its landscape, but also in seemingly small things like how a country makes visitors feel appreciated? Have you ever been to Japan? Share what impresses you the most. And be sure to stay tuned, as the next destination is a legendary Mediterranean, where sunshine and history are dwarfing even America's most expensive theme parks. If Japan captivates with sophistication and discipline, Greece fascinates American tourists with its golden sunshine, blue sea, and thousands of years of history. And interestingly, more and more Americans are willing to skip a vacation in Florida or California to fly halfway around the world to Santorini or Athens. In 2024, the number of international visitors to Greece increased by about 20% per year, and American visitors were among the group with the strongest increase. Cruise ships docking at Athens are now filled with tourists who speak English, but English with an American accent, from New York, Texas, or Illinois. Partly because the climate is strangely pleasant even in the middle of summer. The Mediterranean sea breeze still carries a cool, not sultry breath like many coastal states of the United States. But what keeps visitors longer is its rich history and culture. From the steps leading up to the majestic Acropolis, to the white villages of Santorini lounging on the cliffs, every step feels like walking in a lively open-air museum. And all of that comes with a cost that surprises many people, with tickets to the Acropolis, one of the wonders of the world, only a quarter of the price of a ticket to Disneyland, California, but provides an experience that it's hard to put on the comparison scale. For many older Americans, Greece offers both relaxation and learning, a vacation that combines relaxation and exploration. You can walk in the morning on the ancient stone road, swim in the afternoon in the clear Aegean Sea, and enjoy wine and live music at night right by the beach. And what impressed them equally was the warm welcome of the people, something they said sometimes faded from crowded tourist destinations back home. Many people initially planned to try Greece for a few days during their trip to Europe, but then cancelled the rest to stay longer. When the cost is reasonable, the scenery is picturesque, and the cultural experience is profound, it's hard to go back to the crowded beaches and expensive domestic services. So the question arises, is the US losing traction even in advantages that were once considered irreplaceable, such as blue sea, yellow sunshine, and coastal vacations? If selected, will you spend a week in Santorini or Miami? Comment to share the reason. And don't look away, because the next destination is right on the same continent as the US, a neighbor who is quietly overtaking in international travel rankings. You may have thought, Canada? Well, it's beautiful, but there's nothing new. But you will be surprised to know that more and more Americans, especially those over 50, are skipping Florida and Arizona to go to British Columbia or Nova Scotia. Not because they like the cold, but because they like peace. In the list of rising international destinations, Canada is not noisy, not viral, but solid, stable, and is quietly attracting American visitors with what America is losing. Real nature is not crowded. The city is neat, not chaotic. The people are kind, not rushed. According to data from Destination Canada, in 2024, the number of US visitors to Canada increased by more than 30% compared to the previous year, and especially increased sharply in the group of retired tourists, middle-aged couples and groups looking for a healing experience. And here's something interesting that few people notice. At a time when US domestic air tickets skyrocket, a flight to Vancouver or Montreal is sometimes cheaper than flying to New York or Miami, not to mention the experience is completely different. Although Canada's standard of living is not much cheaper than the US, the feeling is completely different. Not because things are cheaper, but because you feel like you're not being squeezed out. You don't have to tip 20% for mediocre service. You are not urged to leave the coffee table, even if you are just sitting alone reading a book. You don't get tired of enjoying the right kind of industrialization. I feel more respected when traveling in Canada, even if I'm just a walk-in to a used bookstore in Toronto. Many American tourists shared that in Canada, they don't feel like strangers. No questionable checks, no overrun by sales, no endless spiral of spending. It's travel, but it still has its own space to breathe. An older woman expressed, "I used to think Canada was like America, only colder. But in reality, it's like a version we once had, but have now forgotten. Clean, pleasant, and everyone doesn't seem to be in a hurry. If a safe, close, clean, polite place with world-class natural landscapes is only a few hours' flight from your home, why do we keep trying to squeeze in overcrowded beaches or expensive cities domestic? Have you ever been to Canada? What surprised you the most or made you want to come back? Please share in the comments. And if you're someone who once loved American nature but found things losing their soul, try crossing the border once. Who knows, you'll find yourself entering an America in a different way. And be prepared, because the final destination on this list is a land once filled with sand and sunshine, but has now turned into the world's most lavish symbol, and it has just surpassed New York in tourism revenue. If Canada conquers with safety and intimacy, then UAE, especially Dubai and Abu Dhabi, captivates American tourists with its unlimited luxury and ambition. Just a few decades ago, this place was still largely vast stretches of sand. And now, these are skyscrapers, giant shopping malls, palm-shaped artificial islands, and gold-plated hotels, all as if coming out of a science fiction movie. In 2023, Dubai officially surpassed New York in tourism revenue, with a figure of more than $29 billion. American guests make up a significant portion of it, not just business trips, but also family vacations, honeymoons, and luxury shopping experiences. What makes the UAE pop up so quickly? Perhaps thanks to a combination of ultimate luxury experiences, modern infrastructure, and an ambitious global promotion campaign. Here, you can have dinner in a restaurant at the bottom of the sea, sleep at a 7-star hotel, or sit in a helicopter with a panoramic view of iconic buildings. Dubai Airport is continuously among the best in the world, connecting quickly with major cities in the US, making the journey more convenient than ever. And the image of Dubai appears everywhere, from social networks, major sporting events, to American television programs that instill in the minds of tourists the image of a destination that is both luxurious and modern, hard to ignore. UAE gives many visitors the feeling of being cherished as VIP guests. Everything is fast, comfortable, and aimed at maximum satisfaction. But there's also a slight satire here. Not a few people say they have to fly 12 hours into the Middle East to find the hospitality and service they used to be familiar with in America. Despite its reputation for luxury, the UAE is also attracting middle-class tourists with its soft-price package tours of a week in Dubai, including airfare and 4-star hotels, sometimes cheaper than a 7-day vacation in Las Vegas. So the final question for us: when a country that once only had sand and oil can now turn itself into a global travel icon. America, with its rich history and rich resources, will react. How to regain its position? Looking back at the journey through 8 countries, from Croatian beaches, thousand-year-old culture in Morocco, to the luxury of the UAE, we see one thing clearly. The global tourism map is shifting. America is still a desirable destination, but is no longer the default choice. The reason lies not only in price or procedures, but also in how each country makes visitors feel welcome, appreciated, and worth the money. So the question is this just a temporary period after the pandemic? Or is it a sign of a new era where the US has to compete more fiercely to maintain its position? The answer probably lies in how we change today. If you find this video useful, don't forget to click like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the latest analysis on economics, travel, and global trends. And leave a comment. What do you think America should do to regain its appeal on the world travel map? I really want to hear your opinion. This video was made based on public information sources, international travel reports, and trend analysis. The aim is to provide multi-dimensional information and perspectives, not to criticize or attack any country, individual, or organization. All data and comments are for reference. The audience should verify for themselves before making personal conclusions or decisions.